I see the Padawan needs one last lesson. Tell me, is it the chosen one? He will avenge us.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another State of Star Wars address. Good to see everybody in the chat. I see this place absolutely exploding already. Thank you so much. It's so good to have you here. I'm going to say what's up to everybody. What's up to my members? Hello, good to see you here. Daisy, Blossom, Flower, Child is here, dropping X-Wings early. I appreciate it. Darcipio, I see you in there. We're gonna get to your comment in a little bit. Tevin Daniels is here. The Red Ranger, Matt Rissman, Flacco Zoldi. I can never pronounce it, man. Good to see you. Live long with the Force. Ronnie is here. Good to see you. Scott Westbrook, Benjamin Martindale, Ghost Rider, Valientes, James Kling, Legion of Maul. Good to see you. Dat Boy Steve is here. John Graber, the Space Jockey, my little green friend. Good to see you. Georgie Girl is here. I'm in the chat as well. What's going on, me? Good to see you. Tans is here. Good to see you. Who am I missing? Johnny Reb. Hello. I don't know that I've seen you before, but welcome. Glad to have you here. And Sparta 300, Paul Taylor, Tevin Daniels, I think I might have said you already, and Nightbot. Always good to see Nightbot. Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another stream. I got to get the music going here. I need my music if I'm going to vibe, because we got a lot to talk about tonight. We got a lot of different things we got to talk about tonight. So first things first, obviously, as the stream is labeled, we're going to be talking about Mandalorian, Chapter 18, so Season 3, Episode 2. Oh, and I see Luke Skywalker in the chat. What's up, my good friend? Good to see you, buddy. We're going to be talking about Mandalorian. Hold on, I'm trying to get my music right. There we go. And I got to put some on in the background for me, because I listen to Closed on Sunday every time we stream. You guys can't hear it, but in the background, I'm rocking Closed on Sunday lo-fi, because God, that guy's a beast. So, Mandalorian, Chapter 18, Season 3, Episode 2. It's been an absolute joy watching everybody react to this, because a lot of people kind of feel like this is a good episode, and a lot of people don't want to say this was a good episode. I'm not all sunshine and rainbows. I'm going to be honest with you guys. A lot of the problems that I've seen that have plagued Lucasfilm Disney Star Wars, they were very apparent in this episode as well. But they also did a lot to try to get this episode right, and I think they did a lot of things right. But of course, as we go into the episode and actually look at the beginning, everything that was bad kind of came out first. So luckily, we'll be able to get that stuff out of the way, and then hopefully we can focus on some good stuff. But I'm going to bring up some stills so we can talk about it. And just so everybody else knows, the agenda for the rest of the night, we've got the lawsuit for Karen McCarthy. That's going to be coming up. We're going to be talking about Gina Carano being potentially recasted as Gina Carano and why I think that is an absolutely horrible idea. And then, of course, I made the video last week talking about Taika Waititi and what happens the week after a massive article drops about who's getting their movie, who's off the roster, and who's definitely on it. And of course, it's Taika Waititi. It's like I've got a sixth sense, man. I'm telling you. So without any further ado, who else popped in? I'm an X-Wing shill. Man, I appreciate that. There's not a lot of you out there, so I really appreciate it. I get it from both sides, man, because I want to be fair and just when it comes to looking at this stuff. So both sides of the fandom hate me. It's a wonderful place to be, and Twitter does not get more toxic than if you do that. Trust me. Trust me. Peter Griffin's in the chat. What's up, Peter Griffin? Good to see you. And I see my old friend Nikki. All right, let's bust into this thing. So the episode starts out, obviously, we get a recap, and then the first place we go, right back to Tatooine to see my least favorite person in the entire Star Wars galaxy at this point, Pelimoto. I swear to Bob, I hate this character so much I can't even begin to describe it to you. It is painful every time I watch this character, when they have a spot of monologue, when everything Pelimoto does just feels like forced exposition. That's the only way I know how to describe it. It just hurts. She opens up her mouth and it's like, nothing changed in this episode. Pretty much the same vibe. So we pull up on Tatooine. We see some kind of speeders going around through Mos Eisley. And essentially, she makes it extremely, extremely clear to us that it's the Boonta Eve classic week, right? So the Boonta Eve was like, this was a holiday put forth by the Hutts. Why the holiday is still kind of important, I'd be interested to find out. They could elaborate a little bit more, like, why is Boonta Eve still a big thing? The Hutts are gone, right? They're not on the planet anymore. And in fact, they even reference it because, like, oh, are the Hutts back? Are you going to go see Boba Fett? But essentially, we wind up with a 5-minute long scene. And I really did. I timed this and I saw how many times she said Boonta. She says Boonta 5 times in a 5-minute scene. That means once every 60 seconds, she says Boonta. So we're just getting beat over the head. It's the Boonta. I'm going to give you Boonta prices. It's the Boonta week. You know how people drink on Boonta? It's the Boonta week. Oh my God. Holy shit. We get it. It's the Boonta Eve. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Pelimoto. And then we see she's actually a complete slime ball of a person because she's ripping people off, basically stealing their shit and then dismantling it and selling it back to him. Bunch of assholes. But we get a good Rodian, which is kind of cool. We finally get a good Rodian. They did the hands right on the Rodian. And then a bunch of exposition. So again, I'm glad we're getting this out of the way because I do want to be positive about this episode. But for the love of God, the dialogue comes back again. Pelimoto says, it's an R5 unit. It's an R5 unit. And he says, well, I need a droid that's rated for spelunking. You need a droid that's rated for spelunking? Spelunking?
You fucking nerd.
Probably it wouldn't have been my dialogue choice, but that's fine. Look, this is a painful portion of the episode. We're going to get through it. We're going to move on to the good stuff. So we find out that even though he was after a literal assassin droid, and he would not accept anything other than an assassin droid, now Pelimoto convinces him to take R5-D4, which is at best a very scared astromech unit. She says R5, I don't know how many times, tells us that R5 fought in the rebellion, and he's going to be perfect for you. Oh, and beyond that, I'll reinstall your droid port. We'll stick him back on there, and you'll be good to go. So sells Mando down the river with an absolute piece of crap droid. No offense to R5, but we all know what happened there. So yeah, we get this very long and kind of drawn out scene that I don't know really needed to happen, with way too much Pelimoto. If it were up to me, we would just get rid of Pelimoto. But things start to get better after this, right? Okay, so we get the whole scene. So I'm looking at chat. I see you guys. And Mary Lanning, I see you. Hello. How are you? Felicity Pooball's in the chat. Stop crapping on Skippy. I really don't like this character. These are the kind of cheap laughs that I feel like Lucasfilm has to be very wary of, because when you create a character like this, it's like a Taika Waititi situation where you can't get away from the humor because that's the character. And so it's like every single time it's a joke, it's a joke, it's a joke, it's a joke, but they're all bad. They're all really bad jokes. And so it just kind of took me out a little bit. I just really don't like Pelimoto. I don't. Live Long says, but X-Wing, how would we know what is happening in front of our eyes without a short nasal voice character that knows everything and bosses our main character around? That's kind of where I'm at. So, like, Pelimoto is just this platter for exposition, and I really don't like it. Again, this was absolutely the worst part of the episode for me. I know there are people who are going to disagree and say that there are other things that happen, but for me, 100%, this is the worst part of the episode. It only gets better from here. But the Tatooine scene just needs to go away. It just needs to go away. And then, yeah, how did I not even bring this up? She speaks Jawa to the Jawas, and it just sounds like the Minions. So, banana? Ooh, banana. That was rough. Wasn't a huge fan. But luckily, like I said, this scene doesn't last long. She sells him the crappy R5 unit, and they're on their way. Thank God. Kind of a cool scene as they're leaving. We get to see, we get to see Mos Eisley kind of blowing up with fireworks and stuff like that. It's visually a really cool scene. Again, just happy to be out of there. So then we move on. Oh my God, Ronnie, I completely forgot about that. She's dating a Jawa. That's right. She's dating a Jawa. She's dating a Jawa. Oh my God. I honestly, whatever. All right, look, we're going to move on. I want to be positive about this, okay? There's a lot of stuff here that yeah. So moving on, we get kind of a scene where Din is pulling up to Mandalore, and boy, do we get an absolutely gorgeous kind of picture. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it here. Yeah, we get a gorgeous picture of the outside of Mandalore. We can see the swirling storms. You can see that the entire planet is completely covered in this massive, massive storm. And then we kind of get a brief moment where Mando's telling Lil Grogu that we're Mandalorians. You need to learn how to, you need to learn how to chart the stars and know where you're going. Keep that in mind, because that'll be important later. We get a great little cockpit of the N1, which this is great because it kind of brings me back. It's a really good shot from the cockpit. And then they descend into Mandalore, which I thought was really friggin' sick. All of these descents into Mandalore where they're breaking through the clouds and everything. Very pretty. This is kind of like movie quality Star Wars, something that I would expect from like movie quality Star Wars. And my heart breaks again. Every time I see pretty stuff like this, I think about Kenobi, and I start getting upset that we didn't get any of this in Kenobi. So he breaks through the clouds on Mandalore, and we see really for the first time kind of after everything, we see the surface of Mandalore. And yeah, the planet's been completely glassed. It was absolutely glassed. The place looks like an absolute dumpster fire, and like it's been nuked. It was really pretty. I just love the way they, and the fusion bomb craters and everything like that. They did such a good job of making Mandalore look like it's an absolute hellhole, which it is. So they land, and then we get a very long and drawn out scene. There's only one thing that bugs me about this is that this entire time anybody could have just sent a droid down to go test the atmosphere. So we have all these stories about how it's cursed and it's poisoned and this planet, we can never go there again and yada, yada, yada. And they could have just sent a droid, a shitty droid. They could have sent a scared, shitty droid down just to sample the air and be like, oh, by the way, it's completely fine. It's completely fine. Thank you, everybody, for catching that. Is it going in and out? Uh-oh. That's not good. Yes, that is the droid that blew up in A New Hope. So essentially, what's become canon for this is that R2 told R5 to blow his motivator so that he could go with 3PO because he needed to get the message. That's what's... It says I'm still muted? I'm not muted, am I? I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for a second. See if it catches up here. Gonna whet my whistle a little bit here. Okay, damn, everybody else is saying fine. Okay. Every once in a while, if I leave my Rodecaster off for too long, when I fire it back up, it just quits like every, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. It's like, you know what? It's either that or Lucasfilm is after me. Lucasfilm is trying to shut me down. They're trying to silence my voice. No, I'm just kidding. So R5 goes out. They're sitting in the cockpit, and basically Din's like, oh, you can watch him on the scanner, and then he disappears from the scanner. Shocking. Let's move forward a little bit. So then Din basically says, I'm just going to pressurize my helmet, and I'll go look for him. So he pressurizes his helmet and goes and looks for the droids, and we get this new critter. I'm going to see if I can get a freeze frame of the critter here. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I have not heard about these. I have not heard about these creatures in canon yet, or just haven't seen them. I don't know if I missed them in a book somewhere, or I just haven't heard of them, or what the deal is. But I've never actually heard of these creatures. They're, Alamites. So they're kind of canonized later when Bo-Katan says they used to live in the wastes, and now they've basically moved into the city because it's destroyed. I've never heard of them before. I don't think they're necessarily like a terribly designed creature. They just seem a little, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, like, I don't know. They're fine. They get the job done. They do the purpose needed for the story to be told. So that's fine. So he finds out that the atmosphere is indeed breathable, goes back and gets Grogu and is like, all right, let's peace out. We got to jump down the hole and we got to find out what's going on here. This is where stuff gets kind of weird, but I think it gets really interesting because I thought they did a really good job of kind of showing how gnarly everything is. You know, Din says, like, dude, I've never even been here before. I grew up on Concordia, one door down, and it shows, you know, the moon of Concordia. But once they start moving through here, I started to feel like it was a little bit too dark. And this is kind of a composition thing. This isn't really like this has nothing to do with stories or characters or anything like that. But it got really, really dark, and it got kind of hard to see what was going on. But they move through. There's a couple cool shots where it feels like you're spelunking. And he's looking through stuff, and he pulls up this Mandalorian helmet. Now, underneath this Mandalorian helmet, of course, what is it? There's a gigantic crab creature. Now, when I first saw it, my immediate thought, and anybody who's in the expanded universe might have thought the same thing. I thought it was one of the Mandalorian. And my brain just went away. It's not an arbalisk. What the heck are the name of those things? The Mandalorian, the gigantic Mandalorian robots that they would ride into battle. Why can't I remember the name of it right now? It's not an arbalisk. What the heck are that? Somebody in the chat, save my butt right now. They're the giant Mandalorian big robots that they fought with them in the Jedi Wars. Oh my God, this is going to kill me. The Mandalorian Wars. I keep thinking obelisk, but it's not an obelisk. Obviously, it's not an obelisk. Anyway, so I'll see if I can get somebody in the somebody in the chat will probably bring it up. So this thing comes out of the ground. I can't believe nobody in the chat has this yet. So this thing comes out of the ground. It grabs him, and then we see this kind of weird eye thing sticking out of it. So there was at some point some kind of organic creature that's basically inhabited now this technology that's underneath the ground. Basilisk, not obelisk, basilisk. Thank you. I thought it was a basilisk. It is not a basilisk. The basilisk looked completely different. This looked like a giant crab, like mining machine. So he gets picked up, stick him in a bucket, and this weird creature thing basically takes him to his underground lab and starts sucking the juice out of him. I thought this was weird, dude. This was weird, but I was into it because it was done pretty well. I mean, to be honest with you, the CG looked good, the movement looked good. We kind of get this like crazy General Grievous feeling, which is only kind of amplified by the fact that he's basically got like a one-sided Magna Guard staff, right? Let's see if I'm trying to pull up like any stills that show this guy, because if I hit play, like Disney's coming for me, you know what I mean? Yeah, there's kind of a good shot. So I mean, the work is stellar on this creature. He's creepy, he's sketchy, he's kind of weird, but we don't know anything about it. We don't know anything at all. So Grogu basically comes and tries to save Din, and as he's getting like the blood sucked out of him, doesn't work, and he's like, "Go get Bo-Katan." Little homie tries to force pull him out. It doesn't work. So he boot scoots. And then we go on this Disney ride while Grogu's in the pram where we're like ripping through the tunnels. And I'm like, is this a setup for a Disney ride? Like Grogu's pram wild adventure or something? Totally be a thing they would do. Starts to come back out to the surface and he runs into another one of these things. Force eats him, hops in the N1, goes back to get Bo-Katan. There's not a whole lot of exposition here, but basically Bo-Katan's like, let's get rid of this guy once and for all, and then decides she's going to go back and save him. I haven't said barely anything to the chat at this point. I apologize. Yeah, there were a lot of people who were likening this kind of like a Dead Space thing. I could get the vibe. Yeah, it was pretty dark. There was kind of an Isaac feeling to it. What's up, Breezies? Good to see you. Good to see you. That's false. He did care about it. Just because he didn't canonize it doesn't mean he appreciated the stories. I don't know what we were talking about. Yes, it was the Basilisk. So that's not a Basilisk. I wish it was, because that would have been awesome. It was creepy, kind of scary. Yeah, they tried to set like a kind of a horror vibe. And I would say to a degree it worked, but I mean, definitely Disney Plus safe horror. What's up, Raging Rhino? I got to be careful what I say now, because Raging Rhino's in the chat. Oh, okay, perfect. He's not going to stay, but he'll be back for the replay. So I'll just say whatever I want, and then he can roast me later. So he goes and gets Bo-Katan. They head back, and I think we get like one of the best atmospheric entries that we've gotten since... What is the name of that movie? Interstellar. Like, it just feels very much like Interstellar when they're coming back into the planet. Great shot. Very well done. I liked that part of it. They go back in, they land, and they're like, all right, we got to go save Dad. So they hop in, start heading down. She gives us a bunch of kind of exposition that basically reminds us of, I wouldn't even call it exposition. There's like some reminiscing. we get a lot of stuff where if you watched the Clone Wars, you know, you watched any of the stuff with Bo-Katan, there's some kind of old feelings dredged up as we're looking at what Sendari. There's a lot of memories here, right? There was some good stuff that happened in there was a lot of stuff that happened in the Clone Wars there. And then they jump down the hole and it's time to go get Mando. And she's like, I know you're scared. This is one thing I didn't like about this episode. Another thing I should say I didn't like about the episode was the moment when she fights these, and again, I don't remember the name of them. Alanites, the Planet of the Apes things. She turns around and she goes, did you think your dad was the only Mandalorian? Even though, like, we've definitely already seen Alamites. Thank you, Matt. We've already seen Grogu has seen multiple Mandalorians multiple times with jetpacks and all that stuff. You remember when he was on the boat and he got saved by the Mandalorians? Like, it's definitely a thing that's already happened. I think it was just like I don't know, maybe a poorly placed thing. So here comes the debate, and I'm interested what the chat has to say about that. That's what it was. Dude, all right, you get the MVP for the night. I was trying to remember. It was from that movie, The Time Machine. They were like these weird, ripped, kind of ape-like human creatures that were the back. I remember. How did you remember that?
You fucking nerd.
I love you for that. I love that. So here comes the debate. A lot of people have been talking about this. So Bo-Katan comes in to save the day. A lot of people are saying, all right, Bo-Katan won the Darksaber. Because technically the guy in the suit thing pulled it off and threw it on the ground, and then Bo-Katan picks it up, and obviously we get Bo-Katan absolutely destroying with the Darksaber, which was cool because it's nice to see the Darksaber actually like handled properly. She completely murders with it. It's because I'm old. You're welcome. I appreciate it. I like nerds in my chat because they can pull shit up like that. Like, right, I was like, I know I've seen those things before. They're like carbon copies for them. I'll have to remember that when I make a video review, and I'm going to give you a shout out on that. Frank Triggs remembers. Pepperidge Farm remembers. So a lot of people were saying that Bo-Katan already won the Darksaber, like immediately, just because of what happened with the discount Grievous and the whole fight there. I don't think that's the truth, because later on in the episode, when they're sitting around having poodoo soup, or pog soup, whatever they called it, Din does put it back on his belt, right? And there's some question as to, is he really fit to rule Mandalore? This part I kind of do with or without, but then he basically says, look, I need to get down to the living waters. You know, I'm not coming with you. We're headed out. This is it. I'm done. So Bo stands up and she's like, screw it. I'll go with you. Look, I did this when I was a young girl. You know, this is all pageantry. It's all BS. There's no truth to any of it. But when they get down there, of course, she hits the where is it? I don't know if I'm going to be able to freeze frame it right on time. She hits the visitor's plaque in the background, and the visitor's plaque is like, welcome to the living waters of Mandalore. And they go over, this used to be where mythosaurs lived, and yada, yada, yada. So I don't know precisely what the plan or the point of how the next few seconds of this unfolds is, but essentially Din Djarin takes, you know, everything off except for his armor, because he's got to stay in his armor. He starts reciting the creed, and then he walks down the stairs, and I don't know if there was supposed to be a platform or something at some point, and he just doesn't bother to like toe tip, or he just knew what the construction was, but he steps off the edge and his ass just flies straight to the bottom of the living waters under Mandalore. I don't know about you guys, but when I get water, like I'm tiptoeing, I'm checking, making sure my footing's good, especially if you're wearing fucking 80 pounds of steel armor. Like, you might want to be a little careful, but whatever, plot needs to happen. So he flies to the bottom. Bo-Katan's like, damn, I gotta save this guy's ass again. Throws her helmet on, rips down there, picks up our newly anointed Artard Mandalorian, who would be dead twice over if Bo-Katan wasn't there to save his ass, which is like really bad idea unless you're definitely replacing Mando with Bo-Katan, which a lot of people are saying is probably going to happen. It's a really bad idea to basically take your main character and make him look like a effing buffoon to people, because he looks like a buffoon. What if it was just him and Grogu down there? Guess what? Mando goes to the bottom, roll credits. That's it, baby. He's done. That's it. Game over. But Bo-Katan picks him up. They start flying back up, and they run across a Mythosaur. I'm like, oh my god. The Mythosaur is going to eat. We're going to get like another crate dragon fight or something like that. But no, the Mythosaur just looks and kind of turns away. And I'm like, damn, holy shit. That was a whole ass Mythosaur right there. Sick, which means they've been in there for God knows how long. Yeah, and a lot of people are like, oh, he was pulled down by the Mythosaur. No, the Mythosaur nabbed him. No, the Mythosaur definitely grabbed him. Like, no way, dude. No way. That thing was effing massive, dude. Not only was it so massive that if that thing even moved to try to nibber a toe, it would have been a gigantic tidal wave in the freaking living waters of Mandalore. But when they started to pull away, like the Mythosaur was just like, man, I'm minding my own business. Like, you stupid morons always falling in my living water. What you doing in my waters? We got old Greg 2.0. Mythosaur didn't give a shit, dude. So yeah, I'm like, dude, he just took a bad step. He was being an idiot. Yeah, the Beskar pulled him down. That's totally where I was at. Totally. Mythosaurs are supposed to be the size of small city. Yeah, it was freaking massive, dude. That thing's like Smaug chilling underneath there. So I don't think the Mythosaur nabbed him. It's not a Dianaga. None of that stuff. And not to mention, when he got yeeted all the way down to the bottom, that Mythosaur was nowhere in sight. They had to fly all the way back up before they even saw it, and it just looked at him and then turned away. This is my thought process. This is how I view the events that occurred. So then they yeet with the jetpack up to the top. They're dry, they're free, they're safe, and Bo-Katan looks like she's seen a ghost because she goes, holy shit, that was a Mythosaur. And I thought that was a great way to end the episode, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. I thought it was great. Let's see if we can catch a still of that Mythy. Oh, that's just all dark. Oh, I think that's her going down. That's why. Oh, there's kind of yeah. Look at how effing huge that thing is, bro. That's not nipping somebody's toe to pull him down. Are you kidding me? The thing is friggin' huge. Yeah, look at the size of that thing, dude. So there's your Mythosaur. I said, dude, I mean, I was talking about this with other YouTubers for a hot minute. The second that the Mythosaur thing came up, I was like, dude, he's gonna wind up with the Mythosaur signet, and either him or Bo-Katan, one of the two, is gonna have the Mythosaur signet and wind up being the ruler of Mandalore. And just the fact that they had the nuts to put the Mythosaur in the second episode, just like that, like, boom, there you go. Canonized, be happy, it's here now. That was pretty dope, man. So that made me pretty happy. I was really stoked to see that. I friggin' knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. I just didn't know how they were going to do it. And I was happy with how they brought it forward. It wasn't something like overtly shitty. You know what I mean? Because they do that sometimes. It was good. So yeah, they pop out of the water and it's like, oh, snap, Shane. That's a Mythosaur. Holy shit. Everything I know is a lie. So I thought that was a good, I thought it was a good episode. I think they made a lot of strides since the last episode, kind of in terms of strides. I shouldn't say strides. It's the second episode, for the love of God. But I was a little worried after the first episode that this was just going to be like an entire drawn out season. And then at the end of, the last episode, we were going to see a glimpse of the Mythosaur. And it was going to be like, okay, Din's, back on track. He's been absolved of his sins. He's no longer an apostate going spelunking. The freaking dialogue choices, dude. Landed gentry? Is that what you want to be? Do you want to be landed gentry? Or do you want to go spelunking as an apostate? I want my Harry Potter one so I can just go, ridiculous. It's too much, bro. It's way too much. Somebody got a thesaurus for Christmas and was just going absolutely ham. But anyways, I like it. So like I said, I think it was Clifton 3D. I was talking to somebody. Yeah, it was Clifton I was talking to on Twitter today. And they're like, so if you thought the last one was a 7, what is this? Like a 9? Is it up there with, Indiana Jones? And I'm like, dude, the last episode was probably a 6.5. So like the problem is that there was nothing going on and nothing. It was like a really big, long trailer and nothing happened and it didn't move anything forward from the trailers. Now we're in the new episode. We get some movement, a lot of movement, I would say, comparatively to a lot of the stuff that happens in the other season where we go to a planet, we figure out one thing. Okay. And then the next episode, we go to another planet, we figure out another thing. Okay. And then on to the next one, which is just mind-bogglingly boring and really sets up that kind of like, it's a video game feel, like the questing video game feel. This one, he like beep, bop, boop, checked out a couple spots, and then we get something big that happens in the story that moves it forward. So we can put the Mythosaur thing, maybe not to rest, but definitely in the back of the brain. We get, we get some story progression. It looks like now, Bo-Katan's basically back in the fight, which is good. I don't know where they're going to go in the next episode. I'll be honest with you. I don't feel like there was really a hook for the next episode, which I kind of would have liked to have seen. But other than that, yeah, this moved up to like a 7.5. If we're looking at the series on a whole, I think it did a lot more. So it's better. And I know I'm going to catch some flack for that. And I don't give a shit because I think it was better. And it's nice to be able to sit down and watch an episode, have some beef with it, but walk away being like, all right, you know what? That was actually a pretty good episode. If they pulled Pelimoto out of that shit and just like burned her like Aunt Beru and just did the rest of it, I'd say it'd be a 7.7, an 8. Dare I risk? Anyways, moving right along. We got some news to talk about in the fandom. Maybe not the fandom. This is more the executive side. We've got some movement on the executive side that I think is pretty interesting. One of them is just kind of an FU to Lucasfilm, which sometimes I like to see, sometimes I don't like to see. This is pretty funny. And I think it's because it has to do with the Acolyte that I think it's so funny. So Lucasfilm is facing a lawsuit right now. Lucasfilm is facing a lawsuit for firing under the pretense, well, at least the suing company says wrongful termination. But essentially what happened here is Karen McCarthy was hired on to work on the Acolyte, which, as I've said a million times, I have zero hope for that show. We already know exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be a big, splattering, girl power, High Republic show. Phase 4 made this mistake and suffered horrifically for it. So I think maybe as Phase 4 was coming out, they're like, this is going to be great. It's going to be just like Phase 4 of Marvel. People are going to love it. And I don't think it's going to go that way. But before they even got started, before we even have a teaser trailer, Lucasfilm is already being sued. They're eating their own right now. Essentially, what's going on is Karen McCarthy, I think they misspelled it. It's McCarthy. Karen McCarthy is suing Lucasfilm for wrongful termination for Disney's Plus The Acolyte because it cost her dearly. So essentially what happened was she was brought on. The contention is whether under contract or not. But essentially what was stated was, we want you to work on the show. This is what you're going to be paid. And then they ended up firing her. The problem is she was going to get put on an Apple show. It was an Apple TV show called Sugar. Yeah, Sugar. But she turned it down to work on the Acolyte because I'm sure, like anybody, anytime you can get on a women empowerment show in a massive nerd IP, it's going to go well for you. Don't forget. So she tried to get on the show and then they fired her ass. amicably let her go, as Lucasfilm would say. And she agreed. She's like, okay, I guess we're going to part ways, but you need to pay me what I was going to get paid to work the show. Lucasfilm's like, nah, no, we'll give you $5,000 for the one day that you worked. And she's like, no, I'm not taking that $5,000. I'm going to sue your ass. So we'll see how this basically pans out over the next, I don't know, probably 6 months. We'll see what happens. Sugar, I heard it was called Shitty. I don't know what the Sugar show is, to be honest with you. I have no idea. I don't have Apple TV, so not 100% sure, but yeah, so that's basically what's going on. I just think it's kind of funny just because I already don't think the show's going to be good, and just seeing like kind of turmoil and tumultuous circumstances around it kind of makes me happy. I don't know why. Maybe I'm a shitty person for that. It just makes me happy. But if we look at Karen McCarthy and what she's done, I mean, she's got some fairly well-known stuff. I mean, House of Cards was big for a lot of people. A lot of people really liked House of Cards. I never watched it. I didn't watch that or Ballers. I do remember Stranger Than Fiction. If anybody remembers Stranger Than Fiction, she was a producer on that one. That's that old Will Ferrell movie where his life is being narrated. What else we got here? Whip It. I think that was the what was the roller derby movie? The Number 23 with Jim Carrey. I don't know if you guys remember that one. That was like Jim Carrey's serious movie. I thought that movie was great. That was a good one. What Women Want. You guys remember this one with freaking Mel Gibson when he's trying on a bunch of women's products and gets shocked in a bathtub and he can hear what women think. So she's not a nobody. This isn't like Leslie Headland basically getting thrown off the show. Sick burn. Anyways, moving on. Gina Carano. It's never good news when we talk about Gina Carano. It drives me so nuts because she's such a freaking sweetheart. But the story never ends, and I don't know that it's ever going to end. Essentially, where we're at this point is they're talking about recasting Cara Dune as somebody else other than Gina Carano. If I were at Lucasfilm right now, today, and I could sit down and I could say, this is what we need to do with Cara Dune, the best thing they can do is just say that Cara Dune went off with special forces and leave it there. I would not do anything else. Short of bringing Gina back to reprise the role, that's the only thing I would do. I would say you addressed it. Let's leave it there. Don't even. This is fake news. The direct is good. This is on more sites than just the direct. This one's just the easiest. They usually have bright pictures and fun colors. That's why I pick on them. But yeah, like I said, if it were up to me, short of Gina Carano coming back, I would basically just leave this where it lies because it's not going to get any better. And certainly hiring another actress to play Cara Dune is the worst possible thing you can do. So I would say let it lie. Don't F with it anymore. You've got kind of still an open wound with a lot of fans who really liked Gina Carano. And just to fester that and pick at it and do all kinds of stupid shit, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea at all. And I can't think of anybody really that comes to mind that would fill that role well. Because if you think about it, like Gina Carano was already a badass. She was an MMA fighter. She'd F you up, man. If she needed to, she'd F you up. And that's why it made a lot of sense when we saw her fighting. We talked so many times about a lot of these kind of superhero shows, like the WB shows where you have a 115-pound girl just absolutely yeeting dudes who are like, 280 pounds of pure muscle. It was believable when Gina Carano was doing it. And it just made sense. They cited giant freaking robot as the source. Red flag. Okay. Oh, God, they're going to use Ronda Rousey. Don't do that. Frank Trigg says she was a genuine badass, strong female role model, better than Better her than a skinny girl faking being strong. Yeah, it can be tough to make those fights convincing. But I still remember that scene when she was, down in I think the old culvert, and she was just beating the crap out of people. And I'm like, man, it's good. Yeah, let's put a poll up. Why don't we put a poll up? I'm interested to see what you guys think. Let's do a poll. Cara Dune moving forward. Recast. Leave it alone. I'm going to put a third option in there. We'll see what everybody says. We'll see. Okay, so moving on. Like I said, last week. Actually, hold on. Before we do that, real quick, anybody in here? Thank you. If you have donated, thank you so much. We are so close to getting the legendary Tron, the graphics card he needs to continue streaming. I can't believe the generosity of this community. We have already gotten to $805. We're on the cusp. We're on the crest. Thank you, everybody that has donated. Here, how do we do this? View fundraise. I don't want to dox anybody who doesn't want to be seen on the donations. But even GoFundMe dropped a $5. Even GoFundMe dropped a $5. So thank you, everybody, for donating. Let's see if we can give some shout outs here. GoFundMe did. KG, Debbie Young, Deeds, Corso Tavin, Anonymous, Maria Espino, Matt Risman, Hinckley, Donna Hinckley, my bad, Jim Sexton, David Wimbish, Ivan Robles, Todd Zilla, Erica Lawrence, David Carlian, Anonymous, and then myself. And look at that. We're already at 805. I will drop this link in the chat really quick. If anybody wants to throw just a few dollars, doesn't have to be much. And if not, his link for his YouTube channel is also in this GoFundMe. So if you can't, donate any money, just drop by, give the homie a subscribe, show him some love. Streaming with cerebral palsy is not an easy thing to do. Gaming with cerebral palsy while streaming is not an easy thing to do. So this guy's an absolute beast. He's a genie unit. We got to show him some love. Like I said, we're getting close. We're almost there. So thank you, everybody who has donated, and thank you, everybody who will donate in the future. I appreciate you. I appreciate you a lot. And Darth Dang's dropping a 5. That's it. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. So moving on to the next subject. So Star Wars shakeup. Kevin Feige and Patty Jenkins movie shelved. Taika Waititi looking to star in his own film. And oh my God, were people just out of their minds about this? And I wanted to tell every one of them. Didn't you watch my video last week? I broke this to Variety, okay? So when I made the video, okay, look, here's the deal. Sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I change my mind. Sometimes I'm 100% right. I feel like I've had some time to consider the idea of Taika Waititi making his Star Wars movie. And there's a part of me that still thinks he's capable of doing something. But the more I think about it, the more scared I get for what is probably going to come out of it. So I was not surprised at all. I mean, Patty Jenkins and Kevin Feige were off the table. We kind of all knew that was going on right off the bat. It's just more the fact that when I think of Taika Waititi and what he would do with a film, the more I start to think of Thor: Love and Thunder, the more I start to think of Jojo Rabbit, the more I start to think of What We Do in the Shadows, the more I start to think about these films. And no matter what you do, Taika comes through in it. It's written in his voice. Very much. It's directed in his voice. And then beyond that, a lot of the times you hear his voice in the movie because he likes to be in it as well. And just the more I think about it, I don't know that this is a good idea, man. I don't know that this is a good idea. The guy is... This is hard to explain. He's brilliant, but he's brilliant in a way that a lot of people don't like. It doesn't take away from the fact that he's brilliant, but if he's not pointed in the right direction, that brilliance is just turns into rainbow crud all over everything. And a lot of times his ego can get in the way. I remember I think there was an interview with Chris Hemsworth where he's like, yeah, I don't really want to work with like the Hollywood, like mad scientists anymore. I think I'm done. And I was like, that was a big slap in the face to Taika, especially for somebody to Hemsworth to be like, dude, I don't think I'm going to work with this guy ever again. Which gives pause to me, that gives some pause, especially for somebody who could be getting, films in Marvel movies or roles in Marvel films, to be like, nah, I'm not going to work with that guy anymore. That's cause for concern. That is cause for concern. Taika can continue doing voiceovers on Star Wars. That brilliance is very subjective. Can't disagree there. We need a Star Wars Jessica Rabbit. No, we don't. Thanks, Dangs. I'd rather nobody off the street with the requisite training and experience did the movie, because we don't need controversial people involved with Star Wars right now. Freaking nailed that one on the head. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think we need anything controversial. And to be honest with you, I've said this before, and I'm sure it makes people mad when I say it, but I feel like for the most part, Star Wars has done better than, I would say, like Marvel at staying away from the woke stuff. It doesn't mean that it's not there, but it's definitely not as prominent, is what I would say. So the further we can kind of get away from identity politics and all the virtue signaling and societal signaling, if we can keep away from all that stuff and try to keep Star Wars about the content, it's going to be in a much, much happier place. So let's do that. I'll be honest with you, man. I was super pumped for the Patty Jenkins movie. I mean, of course, it was, Rogue Squadron, but I was really pumped for that and absolutely heartbroken when I heard that it was off the table. And I hope that someday they can kind of come back and revitalize that idea. But boy, I would much rather have a Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron, Top Gun style X-Wing movie than a fucking terrible Taika Waititi narrated the story of the Jedi, not Jedi, the Jedi, JED''AII, which I think is probably what it's going to be. I think he's probably going to go way back, way back in the annals of history and tell some kind of story about the beginning of the Jedi and do some kind of shitty slapstick humor movie about how, like, oh, well, what are force powers? Oh, look at this. And one drops another rock on somebody's head and they're like, oh, we don't know. We're Jedi. I got to be careful about doing that shit on the internet. That's going to get clipped and just... I'm not kidding, though. That is what I would expect out of Taika Waititi, and that is not something that I want for Star Wars. Am I dying for a Star Wars movie? Yes. Am I dying for a Star Wars movie that bad? Nope. Definitely not. At this point, I'd have to question the sanity of anyone who signed on to this version of Lucasfilm. I'd be done forever. Taika's a major goofball. He is a major goofball. And it's endearing at times for me because I totally get it. I mean, I'm a goofy dude sometimes, but also when it's something important, like sometimes it's time to batten down the hatches and take shit seriously. And I don't know that he's the guy to do that because he likes to have fun. Know what I mean? Damn, you know Taika very well. I do. He's my second uncle. Twice removed, cousin's sister's brother. Slapstick humor isn't Star Wars. I would agree. There's always been humor in Star Wars. Slapstick is not. It's not. It's always kind of hard to quantify, but I feel like the humor, in the original trilogy was kind of very matter-of-factly, and it was almost like British humor. You just laugh because of something that seems normal as opposed to pointing out something, like the humor for the Pelimoto scene today in the Mando episode. It drives me nuts. I hate it. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. The Pelimoto humor drives me up a freaking wall. Whereas there are other moments, where you have Bo-Katan looking back at Grogu and it's like, what are you looking at? Like, That's much more of a Star Wars type humor. It's not overt. It's quick. It passes quickly. And if you're not looking for it, you don't see it. So, do I think Taika's a good fit? I rescind my original statement. I don't think Taika's a good fit. We'll see. I hope I'm wrong. If this dude's movie absolutely slams, that'd be great. I remember how much, we loved Thor Ragnarok. A lot of people liked that, but that was very much a perfect film for Taika to do. I don't see how a Taika film fits into the Star Wars universe at this point. So we'll see what happens. Humor that helps the story is okay. I agree, 100%. And we got a new member up in here. Laura Lynn Lance became a member. Welcome. You got to shake your butt. Every time you become a member, you got to shake your butt. Welcome to the Hanger Gang. Appreciate you. So that's pretty much what I had for tonight, folks. I know it's a short stream. It's an hour stream on these Wednesdays. I try to keep it pretty quick. I want to go through these episodes and then pick up on, some of the stuff I see on the internet. Thinking about making a segment for this called Twitter Idiots, where I pull up some of the stuff where people are talking about Mando on either side and just pick some things that I think are absolutely moronic because, oh boy, Twitter's just full of that. Absolutely full of it. His movie will be Peli, a Star Wars story. Oh my God. Send me to death, please. Common Twitter L. That's a good one. Hold up. Wait a minute. What about Bad Batch? I'm going to be saving Bad Batch for the late night because I want to talk about it with Rissman. Rissman is obviously the huge proponent for Bad Batch. So I think it'd be more fun if we sat down and talked about it. So hopefully after the Echo Base stream on Saturday, if he's up for it, we'll sit down, we'll do a late night, and we will talk about the Bad Batch episode because, yes, it was far more dark, far more adult, and people seem to really like it. In some cases, it seems more than the Mandalorian episode. So lots to talk about there. Yeah. And that's it. I love you guys. Thanks for popping on. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. I need to go eat some dinner and I need to go to bed. That's what I'm going to do. So everybody have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you on the next one. May the force be with you always.
Perfect.